Hello, I do the introduction for this group. In this report, we focus on exploring the basics about the schedule of quantities apportionment and the quantity rates for the NZS 4202 rules of the measurement. In this section 1, we do the concrete works for this section, and in the section B is the information of the country. We also do some briefly description of the NZS 4202 approach to measure some items of the country trade.
On timber, used in New Zealand are radiata pine, which is commonly used in 90% of the industry, and Douglas fir, 5%, due to it being more difficult to treat. Kauri, tuatara, etc. are seen as quite costly and used more for their aesthetic properties. Grading is a classification system that classifies the grades of timber in accordance to the New Zealand Standard 3631. There are two ways in which timber is graded. One of the oldest and most commonly used method is known as VSG, or visual grading method. Highly trained graders grade the timber based on its appearance and properties, which can have issues regarding its quality. Another form of grading is machine stress grading, MSG. This process involves putting timber through a machine and applying a non-destructive bending load and recordings done at short intervals. This is seen as quite costly due to the machine that's needed. Treatments are used to preserve the timber whilst also preventing any attacks that are fungal or from insects. The treatment that is selected must be appropriate in regards to the timber's intended use. There are three types of timber treatments commonly used in New Zealand. Current timber treatments use the boron, which is applied by dipping or spraying of the boron solution and is used commonly in structural framing. Another treatment is LOSP, light organic solvent preservative. It's commonly used for timber that will be manufactured, such as plywood, as it doesn't cause swelling. It does involve an extra process which applies a fungicide and insecticide. Copper chromium arsenic, CCA, is a timber treatment that extends the life of timber. The chromium acts as a preservative, while the copper and arsenic acts as an insecticide and fungicide. These are applied with high pressure, and the timber is left to sit for up to 2 months.
There are 8 commonly used components to external wall framing: the lintel, bottom plate, top plate, stud, twang, brace, the DPC layer, and the building paper.
The size of material that I observed at the site, lintel, is like 190 millimeters width and 905 millimeters length and 60 millimeters thickness. The bottom plate depends on the material's length and width, also as for the top plate. The stud I observed at the site was 45 millimeters width and 2,600 millimeters length. The drum is 360 millimeters length, and we can find out like every 750 millimeters length from the stud, we installed one point between. And the bracing is always depends on the cross length of the stud. The lintel is the board that spans between two vertical supports. And the bottom plate is the bottom part of the wall structure for the framing. The top plate is the similar part as the bottom plate, but it's installed at top. The stud is like the vertical timber that installed above the bottom plate, and the drawing is like the connection between the studs. The bracing is like the timber that settle across the wall frame. And the DPC means the damp-proof course. It's like the waterproof materials for prevent like the house get the dampness, and the building paper is the materials that covered by the outside of the wall frame, also for the house.
Minimum strength of concrete on a residential property is 20 MPa. Concrete should be at least 100 millimeters deep. These specifications are varied depending on what the structural engineer has recommended. Heavier properties such as high-rise buildings will need stronger and deeper concrete. As well as this, the slope and soil type dictates how deep and how thick the concrete should be.
Damp-proof membrane, also referred to as DPM, is used to keep the concrete slab from becoming water damage from the underneath. In residential properties, black polyurethane is used. 1 millimeter thick sheets laid out over the foundations and hard fill with reinforcing mesh over the top, ready for concrete to be poured on.
Joints in the concrete slab are essential in ensuring any unwanted cracking does not occur. Cracking can cause weak foundations for the house. The construction joint used in the site observed was a contraction joint. A contraction joint is where the contractors create a cut 25% deep into the slab. This creates a line in which the slab will crack without threatening the strength of the foundations. Per New Zealand Standards 4202, expansion, contraction and construction joints detailed in the documents or required to be formed in specific locations shall be measured separately and fully described. Basically what this means is the joints in the slab must be measured and fully described compared to the plans.
With the bar and ground slab, the preparation of the concrete slab requires mesh beneath the concrete to reinforce the slab. The type of reinforcing mesh is HD12 500 E grade deformed 12mm diameter. The mesh is laid out throughout the slab. It needs to be overlapped with no gaps in between. The mesh is elevated at the deep, damp-proof membrane with a minimum cover to top the surface of 30 mm. The mesh is tied together with wire so it cannot move. Power float finished ground slab. Power floating finish is required for a concrete slab foundation for a number of reasons. The power floating machine is placed over the concrete, but the concrete needs to be dry enough that the contractor can work on the cement without creating an imprint. The machine has blades underneath the motor which firstly levers up the concrete. After this they change the blades to special finishing blades which run across the top of the concrete, giving it a gloss finish. The power floating machine is used to create a gloss finish to the concrete slab, therefore it looks more aesthetically pleasing. A few benefits of the finish is it allows waterproof finish and has minimal maintenance due to the gloss finish.
A conclusion for this group. To sum up those evidence and documents, we already get the schedules of quantity, rates, and the NZS 4202 rules of the measurements. In this process, concrete in foundations and the group slab, brief description of NZS 4202 based approach to measuring some items of concrete work cut and shows minimal details and lots of photos about concrete, construction and wood. Details about guidelines for minimal stress requirements of concrete laid and how to keep the concrete be dried longer, kinds of problems of concrete cutting and seams. Another section searched about the different species, grades and details about the elements of wood.